Hi everyone, welcome to the session. So I hope all of you are doing well, and in today's session we are going to take some of the questions that we got through the form that we had circulated. So this is an Ask Me Anything session. So we have a form that we generally send before all these sessions, and students can fill in their questions, and I've taken questions related to work experience and MBA. Of course, some of you may not have submitted your questions, and that's okay. If you have joined the session on YouTube, you can always ask a question in the YouTube chat and I'll take your question from there. So I have about, I think, 15, 16 odd questions that we have. We'll be taking these questions and I'll take questions from YouTube chat. Okay. All right. So let's get started. And this time I've done something slightly different compared to what I typically do. I've also mentioned the name of the student who has asked that particular question. So let's start with the first question. This is from Ardra. Will it affect me in MBA college interviews if I don't mention the work details of the job that I've worked for only 7 months? I joined the firm from campus placement, but 5 months into the job, I quit it during my probation so that I can study. I no longer want to mention that I just want to attempt CAT as a person with zero work ex. Is this okay, or will hiding the details of the job affect me later? Okay, all right. So in this case, I would recommend you to be absolutely honest and mention it. See, sometimes we try to think that, okay, we'll not show this information and all of that. It just creates unnecessary pressure for you. So my recommendation is going to be very simple, that you be absolutely straightforward and say that you have worked, because as whatever work experience you had, right, whether it was 5 months, 7 months, doesn't really matter, right? You can talk about that. You can say that, okay, these are the things that I learned during that particular experience. So no experience in my view is waste. You can definitely mention it, and you can talk about the positives, right? So you can talk about, okay, these are the specific things that you learned. You realize that, okay, there is a scope for you to develop your attitude, skill, knowledge, and so on, and that is why you decided to do your MBA. So I'm pretty sure that a nice story can be crafted around why the work experience that you had and why you want to do an MBA. So I would suggest that you mention it without any hesitation. Don't really worry about whether they will ask questions such as why did you leave in 5 months and things like that. You have enough time to find answers to those questions. And once the CAT is over, you will have enough time to prepare. You will of course have help from all the IMS mentors, so that you can figure out the responses that you're going to give to the panelist. But for now, I would suggest that you leave all of these questions aside. You focus on your CAT prep and mention your work experience. Let's move on to the next question. This is from Ambikeya. I have recently joined an internship as a consultant. Will it be of any help? All right. Now, see, everything is about documentation, right? So what is the final document that you're getting, and whether the job is a proper job, it's a full-time job or not. So on the YouTube channel of IMS, on this very channel, you will find a video that I only have recorded, which is on work experience. So please go through that video because it covers the entire specifics, right? So all the details regarding how individual IIMs look at your work experience, and whether you should have work experience, you should not have work experience, and so on. So of course, if you watch that video, you will get answer to all the work ex related questions. To put it very simply, or just to give a summary of that, is if when you look at the IM selection process, the definition of work experience is very, very clear. It has to be full-time paid after graduation. So anything that is internship, part-time work, articleship, anything that is a mandatory requirement of, let's say, the degree that you're pursuing, that is not considered as work experience by the IIMs. Anything that you do prior to your graduation is not considered as work experience by the IIMs. It means that you're not going to get points for that. But can you talk about it in the interview? The answer is yes. So let's say you may have done an internship between your first year and second year. Will you mention it as work experience in the CAT form? The answer is no. You cannot mention it as work experience. But will you talk about the internship that you have done in your interview? The answer is yes. So you can talk about that. So asking this question, if you have joined an internship, it's an internship, it's not a full-time job. Hence, this will help in the interview room where you can talk about it, but you cannot mention it in the CAT form as work experience. Okay, I hope I've answered your question. The next one says, I'm from a tier 3 city, so should I look for a work from home as job roles in my city are not that good, or on-site job only family business? This is from Jatin. Jatin, a lot of students will be in similar condition, right? So you may not have a lot of opportunities where you are located right now. In that case, if you have done any sort of a graduation or if you have any skill which is suitable for remote jobs, right? So there are a lot of remote jobs that are available. If you end up finding something, you can always take it up. So ensure that you take up something which is full-time in nature so that you can show it as a proper work experience. So it doesn't matter whether you're working on site, whether you had a proper office where you were going, as long as the documentation is sorted, even if it was a remote job, it's completely fine. Okay, so don't worry about that. The location of the job is immaterial. The documentation is very, very important. So it has to be full-time paid after graduation. Moving on to the next question, I'm a GEM candidate having profile 887 with 1 year gap. If I continue with CAT prep, or I should go with a job and try next year, so I have 1+ year of experience due to low tier college facing issues in securing job as well. So when you say 1 year gap, I am guessing that you graduated in 24, and because of that there's already that 1 year gap that has happened on your resume. Okay, now in that case, the standard recommendation, and if you ask this to anybody who is like a sensible mentor, they will tell you that you take up a job. Because see, you're thinking of CAT preparation, right? CAT is going to happen in November, but your interviews are going to happen in the month of Jan, Feb, March, April. By then, if you're not working, it is going to create a much bigger gap on your resume. So instead of that, I would suggest you to take up a job. It can be a job which is a little bit light in terms of workload. For example, if you can find something which is a 5-day work week kind of a thing, right? So it gives you some time on the weekends to study. If you can find something like that, great, right? So take it up. Take up something which is closer to your wherever you are based, right? So you don't have to travel a lot for your job. Take up something like a remote job, right? So there are a lot of things that can be done. It's better if you take up a job, because otherwise it will be a longer gap on the resume, and then the justification becomes more difficult, right? So the panel is definitely going to ask you that, don't you realize the worth of, let's say, so much time that you spent, correct? So instead of giving too much justification, better to find a job that you like and that will give you ample time to prepare for CAT as well, and then it becomes like a win-win situation. Okay, moving on to question from Krish. Is it advisable to add dad's profession as work experience if we have worked with him for a short time? Okay, now firstly, this is the question that you should be asking yourself, that did you really work with your father or not, right? So were you actually involved in whatever is the family business? Second is, can post-graduation traineeship be counted as work experience? Okay, now everything that generally ends with ship, right? So traineeship, articleship, internship, they are not considered as formal work experience, right? Because for a lot of such traineeship or any sort of internship, there is a stipend that is given, right? So there is a fixed thing that you do this, you're going to get, let's say, 15,000 per month or 20,000 per month, right? There is no HRA, there is no DA, there is nothing like PF deduction and things like that. So that is why if it is going to be called traineeship, right? At the end of it, you're going to get a certificate which says that you were a trainee. You cannot use it as work experience, right? So that is why you cannot show this as work-ex. Is having 10 months of work-ex any worth? Any experience, whether it is 2 months, 5 months, 10 months, 4 years, whatever, all of that can be shown as work experience. Okay, so don't worry about that. And whether it is worth it or not, the answer is yes, everything is worth it, right? So even in these 10 months, let's say you've worked, you must have picked something, correct? So you must have picked some really crucial skills. You must have had various experiences, and these are worth mentioning when you go to the interview. So don't self-evaluate the quality of work experience. I suggest that the quantity is something that is going to matter from a selection perspective, where you're going to get points for the number of months of experience that you submit. Now, if this is linked to the first question, that it's a family business, can you show it as work experience? The answer is yes. More importantly, your documentation has to be really proper. Okay, so IMK, by the way, has a very beautiful selection criteria document. If you check that, most of these questions get answered, because they have clearly given what all documents are required. For example, you can give your income tax returns, you can show the audited statement of the business to show that, okay, you are working there and this was the share that you got and things like that. So the documentation, if that is sorted, you can show family business as work experience. Okay, I think we have a few more questions on family business, and we'll talk more about what sort of documentation is required, or if you're, let's say, drawing salary in cash, then what you should be doing and things like that. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next set of questions. So question from Saurabh: is graduate engineering trainee position, apprenticeship position, post completion of BTech considered as work-ex? I have offer letter and salary, but I received a fixed stipend, right? So this is the problem that I was mentioning, that it's not salary, right? You don't get a salary slip. What you're getting is that, okay, you do some project that is given to you, or you have been assigned a particular task, and at the end of, let's say, 3 months or 6 months, you get a certificate. That is not considered as work experience by the IMs. But if you have this, I suggest that you continue to do it, finish it off, get whatever certificate that you're going to get. When you go for the interviews, you can talk about it. So a lot of students think that if something I'm not going to get a work experience certificate, is it is worthless, right? It is not worthless. You are not getting points in the selection process in the shortlisting phase, but when you go for the interview, you can talk about it. The next one is from Gurleen. I have only 10 months of experience, now full-time preparing for CAT. What all experiences I can add in my resume during this time to avoid experience-based questions in the interview? Okay, so till May, she has 10 months of experience. And now the question is, what should I be doing if I'm preparing for CAT full-time? All right, so because you already have 10 months, you're going to get some points at least for your work-ex. What I would suggest is, and if it is possible for you to do it, is can you work till maybe end July, if that is still possible for you? I don't know whether you have quit your job. If you haven't quit your job, I would suggest that you continue to work till end July, because when you fill the CAT form, your work-ex as on end July is considered. By then, if you hit 12 months, it will definitely help you at some places. But let's say you already quit, right? In that case, it's okay that you can now prepare for CAT full time. In addition to that, you figure out what you want to do with your time. So see, when you're preparing for CAT full time, right? Let's say you sleep for 8 hours and you prepare for CAT for 8 hours. You still have 8 hours. Now the question is, what will you do with these remaining 8 hours or 1/3 of the day that you're getting? The panelists are also going to ask you the same question. You have to find a justification for these 8 hours. Now when you have a full-time job, that justification is sorted. If you do not have a full-time job, you can have, let's say, an internship, you can do some courses or certifications, you can do some freelancing work, you can pursue hobbies and interests. So all of those things can be done. But are they as great as, let's say, having a work experience? The answer is no, right? So all of these are basically substitutes. Work experience is the ultimate thing that you can get. So I would suggest that you do all of these things that I just mentioned if you're not going to work full time. The other advice is, the moment CAT gets done, and for some of you who might be planning to do like a similar thing, that till CAT I'm not going to work, I suggest that after CAT is done, you take up a job. So by the time you go for your interviews, you can then talk about, let's say, that I'm currently working at so and so firm. So the interview is slightly different, right? So that is the approach that I will take towards this whole thing. Okay, question from Satwik. I will have almost 4.5 years of experience at the time of CAT form filling. How will it affect my chances to get into 2-year MBA? As I want to change from IT to finance, and executive MBA will decrease the chances for that. Okay, so you can still try for a 2-year full-time program. Don't think that you cannot try for 2-year full-time. In CAT form, there are only 2 places where you will get lower points for having higher work experience. IMC is an example of that, and IMK is an example of that, where the higher work experience you have, the lower points you get. So apart from those 2 places, you're not going to have issue anywhere, because you will max out in terms of the points that you can get at most of the IMs. So you can always try for a 2-year MBA. What I would also recommend to you is going to be, try for 1-year programs simultaneously. So don't try only for 2-year, also try for some of the top 1-year MBA programs. Whether you think of IIM Ahmedabad, for example, you take IMK PGP BL, for example, you take the XLRI, for example. So try for 1-year programs too, 1-year full-time programs, in addition to the 2-year full-time programs. This is from Riddhi. If I have very low score in my 12th but good in 10th and graduation, will it give a negative impact while getting into IIMs? Okay, so low score to some extent will affect. But then if you have high score in, let's say, your 10th and graduation, it will compensate for not having a great 12th score. The exact extent is always difficult to determine, and honestly you should not even try to find that out, because it creates unnecessary pressure, right? I mean, if I get that understanding that okay, I will not get a call from XYZ college, it's just too much pressure on me. So I'm going to avoid that. I will just say that whatever it is, it's okay. You cannot go back in time and change it, so don't worry about it. Next one is from Preeti. I recently completed my graduation in BBA LLB and only had experience of internships. I would like to take CAT 25. Would WorkX hinder my selection in any way? Not at all, right? So if you look at any of the top colleges, you look at the batch profile, you will see that there are a lot of freshers, there are a lot of students without any work experience or less than 1 year of experience. So not having work experience is not a problem. It's just that the way I mentioned, you try and find what is it that you want to do with those 8 hours, right? So if you're not currently working and you're just preparing for CAT, figure out what you're going to do, right? So it can be, as I said, the order of priority is simple, or preference. You can have full-time work experience. If not that, take up an internship. If not that, let's say do some courses or certifications. If not that, you can do something like hobbies and interest pursuit. These are the things that can be done. Or you can of course start something on your own, like freelancing. There have been students of mine in the past who started Instagram pages. Through that they started like a small business, and then they talked about that in the interview room. So a lot of things can be done. You just need to think about it. All right, last from Divyanshi, what to do if no internships done and have gap? Okay, so see, if you have not done something so far and you think that it's going to be a problem, what do, right? You take it up as soon as possible. So the way I said, figure out what you want to do, just get on it with it, start doing that, and don't overthink, right? So if you cannot have full-time work experience, it's okay, because you also want to prepare for CAT, which I completely understand. But after CAT, ideally you should start working in that case. Okay, let's move on to the next set of questions. This one is from Minal. I graduated this week. Congrats, Minal. But work experience after June 25 is not considered. So should I get a full-time job internship or only focus on CAT and do some online courses? Precisely the thing that we have discussed. You figure out what is it that you want to do. WorkX will be the first preference that I would recommend. It's not about what is considered or what is not considered. It's about, am I utilizing my time in the right manner? And when I go for the interview, do I have a very good story, a justification, and is it helping me to be a better candidate suited for a particular B school? Alright, moving to Shubh's question. I have completed BTech in May 25 with 8.7, 89, 83, started a job in Ops, supply chain. I'll appear for CAT. I want to pursue MBA in Ops. Okay, great. Will I get benefit of WorkX in admission process? Definitely. So whatever WorkX you have, see, because a lot of students think WorkX purely from the perspective of CAT form, but when you go for your interviews, in a lot of colleges or B schools, they will ask you to fill your WorkX as on a certain date, which is a future date. For example, enter your WorkX as on end March or as on end Jan. If you are working, it's going to be a benefit for you, right? So this will definitely help. Secondly, based on my profile, which college I should target more on and what is the minimum requirement of CAT CMAT score of colleges? I belong to general category. Okay. So regarding the scores that you should be targeting, see, it's going to be different for different colleges and practically not possible for me to give you all of that information here. But I suggest you that you go to the B School Zone. We have something called B School Zone. Just search for bschoolzone.imsindia.com, and there you will find more information on the cutoffs. But if you have this profile is very good, so you can definitely aim for top tier colleges. Make sure that you do your CAT prep really well, get a high score there, and things will fall in place. Sujal, I'm working as a partner in my family business. It's a partnership firm, but I'm withdrawing my salary in cash. Okay, I don't have a bank statement. However, we have audited financial statements that show I have withdrawn a salary in cash. Does this count as work experience? Start drawing salary in, firstly cash, you should stop doing this, right? So don't do that. You need to have transfer to your bank account, okay? Because see, your documentation, as I mentioned, has to be solid. So if you are a partner, if you're a named partner in the partnership, you are entitled for a certain amount of money and you can always withdraw it. It need not be, say, every month, every first of every month. What you can do is, let's say in June you have drawn a salary on 10th, in July you draw salary, let's say on the 5th of the month, and so on. But as long as you are drawing salary every month, in your bank account there are transfers, that is the best thing. See, because it's a registered business, right? It's a registered entity, which means that entity has a bank account. You are auditing all your statements and so on. So why are you dealing in cash, right? So unnecessary. And all of these things may become problem at a later point of time. When you go for your document verification, this might create a problem for you. So for all those students who have family business, you are drawing salary in cash, simple recommendation, stop doing that. Get your salary every single month credited to your bank account, right? So that's the best thing that can be done. All right, I think this is the last slide. This is from Rashika. Rakshika. I'm Rakshika Chaudhary. Completed my undergraduate degree in 23 and currently have 2 years of work experience. Okay, I have recently begun preparing for CAT and I'm considering enrolling a 1-year PGDCA from this university. Can you please advise whether pursuing this would be a good decision? Okay. All right, so since you already have 2 years of work experience, this program may not be very, very useful unless it is closely related to what specialization you want to do. For example, if you're planning to do, let's say, MBA in systems or IT or analytics, technology and things like that, this may prove useful. But if you're planning to shift your career to, let's say, a finance or a marketing, this may not be very useful to you. So my suggestion is going to be, you first figure out which direction you want to take your career in. If you want to move towards, let's say, technology and stuff, this may be useful. But if you want to, let's say, just continue in finance because you've done BCom, in that case, I don't see a major advantage of doing this. Instead of that, I will rather pick up some sort of a full-time job. Okay, because see, every additional month is going to give me points. I already have 2 years of experience, which is good. And whatever I do extra from here on, it's just adding to the points that I'm going to get. So that's going to be my advice. Last question from Siddhant. I've genuinely worked as civil engineer. Thanks for clarifying that. In the family business for 2 years, I have proper documents and knowledge to prove it. Will that be considered as work ex? Yes, it will be considered as work experience. I think there are very few colleges where they explicitly mention that family business will not be considered as work experience. Okay, so except that, and that is going to be less than 0.5% of or 0.05% of all the colleges that are there. Don't bother about it. So even for IIMs, family business can be considered as work experience. So proprietorship, partnership, family business, as long as the documentation is sorted. So make sure that you take care of it. You have worked as a civil engineer, that's great. I hope you have drawn salary so far. If you haven't, start drawing salary from today itself, because when you go for the final, your admission process, document verification and so on, they look at all of these documents. So make sure that you start drawing your salary. Okay. All right, I've received a few questions in the chat as well. This from Dhruv. I have taken IMS mock series. If I score about 90 in proctored mocks, will I be invited in 100 percentile club? I was classroom student last year, hence I know this. Okay, so if you score 90 plus percentile in at least 3 SIMCATs, you become eligible for Club 100, and yes, you will be added. The next one is from Kriti. I'm 28, work ex of 3.5 years in IT, appearing for CAT for this year. Pros and cons. So I can't think of a con as such. I mean, of course, all the pros that are there. MBA is a great thing to do, and 3.5 years is fine, right? So 3.5 years is a spot where you can try for 2-year programs. You can also try for some of the 1-year programs. So XLRI, for example, you can try for that. PGPBL had just increased the eligibility to 4 years. So there are very few programs you can still try for at 3.5 in terms of 1 year. But 2 year is what you can always go for. So don't worry about it right now at least. When will ADMAT master classes be starting? So sometime in September, that's the plan. Laksha, good evening. What exactly do they ask for proof of work ex? I know they want payslip and bank statement, but how many? So typically last 3 months salary slips is what they ask for. And if you are in a family business or something, then your income statement, last 1 year income statement is what is required. If you have your own business, then some of the things such as your registration certificate, your GST certificate, those things are also required. So as I said, IMK has a very beautiful document. I suggest that you have a look at it. I've been working at family business for 2 years even before I knew about CAT. Luckily, I have the salary slip, but no salary slip. Okay, salary slips can always be given, right? So if it's a family business, you just need a salary slip on the official letterhead of the company. So that's not going to be an issue. If you're taking transfers in your bank account every month, that's fine. Okay, I'm a physics teacher in small town of Maharashtra. I started my coaching from home in April 24. Registered with okay, and planning to pursue an MBA. Okay, do IIMs accept MSME as proof of work? And initially I took fees from my student in cash. Will that create hindrance in providing work experience? Okay, so again, as I mentioned, that if it is a business that has, let's say, just started making money, or you started taking cash earlier, and so on, your individual income statement, that can be considered as a proof of employment. The second thing is going to be the GST certificate and all of these MSME certificates that you spoke about. If you have that documentation, it will be considered. Shivansh, is work between 3 to 4 years good, especially in college placement process? Yeah, definitely, not a problem. And if it is relevant, nothing like it, right? So a lot of companies are going to value that experience. In some companies, especially if you are shifting career, right, then it's going to be irrelevant. So let's say for 3 years you were coding, and from there on you're moving to, let's say, marketing, FMCG sales, for example. That 3 years of coding experience is not going to be like a great asset, but it's okay. It's good to have experience. Vipul, is monthly stipend considered as valid work ex? I've received stipend from last 18 months. I have salary slips for it. I was working as a consultant. As I mentioned, right, so everything that is like a stipend, if you cannot provide documentation which shows that this is a full-time employment, it's going to be a problem. I mean, you can't show it as work experience in the CAT form, but when you go for the interviews, you can definitely mention it. Is probation period worth 6 months considered as work ex? No. So see, in some companies what they do is that they call that probation period in different ways. So sometimes they hire people as a trainee. So for the first 6 months you're a trainee, and then you are an employee, and things like that. So look at the exact terms of employment, and if, let's say, they were to give you a certificate, right? What certificate will they give you? Okay, Rakshika, I think I've answered your question, so that is covered. Will I am calculate my work ex from the date of starting coaching business or date of business registration? So it is from the date of registration of the business, as far as I know, because that's what they look at. Doing MBA from tier 3 college, is it worth it? Right? So see, it depends on which college you've got and what's the life situation. If you already have a job and it's paying you decently well, going to a tier 3 college may not make sense. But if you do not have a job right now, and that's the college that you've got, you can join the college and do the best that you can with the opportunity that you've got. So it depends a lot. I mean, I can't really answer it just like that. Balaji, hi, my father has a business, but it's a small sole proprietorship which is not registered, doesn't have any documents. What all institute will ask for? Balaji, I recommend you to look at the video that I spoke about, that I have done on the YouTube channel. The other suggestion is to look at the IMK document, because it gives you everything. So that document will tell you that, okay, these are the documents that are necessary. Have a look at that. So just search for IMK PGP selection criteria document. Is JBM is possible for Gujarati? Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter, right? So the question is not, it's worded in a way that it's difficult to answer what you're trying to ask me. So if you're saying that JBMS is possible for somebody who, let's say, is domiciled in Gujarat, my answer is yes, it is possible. The only thing is that as somebody who is a non-Maharashtrian, you are fighting for fewer seats. Right? So the number of seats that somebody who is not from Maharashtra is competing for is 18, which is all India seats. Somebody who is domiciled in Maharashtra can obviously try for all the 85% of the seats that are there. But if you're asking Gujarati, then if you're Gujarati who has, let's say, lived entirely in your education, your college and all of that has been in Mumbai or in Maharashtra, then obviously, and if you have a domicile certificate, you're treated as a Maharashtra candidate, right? So it's not about Gujarati, it's about what domicile certificate you have, where you've done your education and things like that. A plus B plus C square. Good evening. I am pursuing MBA Nirma and also preparing for NMAT again. Guide me how many hours to prepare for. All right. So of course you have prepared and you got into whatever Nirma, right? So you know what to do. So there isn't much that I can add there. I would suggest that with your MBA that you're doing, maybe 2 to 3 hours if you can manage per day, that will be great. And in that case, from Nirma, I would definitely also be thinking of taking the CAT again, right? So not only NMAT. What if you joined family business in this month itself? Okay, just start drawing salary every month. As simple as that. Make sure that you're taking bank transfers and not in cash. I've recently completed my graduation. I'm preparing for CAT. This is from Alpana, but I think my profile is basic. Can you please suggest how can I enhance my profile? Great. So first things first, if you can take up a full-time job, that will really be useful. If not that, do an internship. If not that, do some courses or certifications. And you can also try your hand at some freelancing if that is feasible. Okay. Will we be uploading more videos for Maharashtra CET? Yeah, definitely we keep uploading. But then CET for this last year is done. The next year, it's too early to make videos. Divya, I have family business. Salary slip from April 24. Anything else I have to prove in the interview or any other process? Not really, not required. Okay, but again, as I said, have a look at the IMK PGP selection criteria document. Alpana, I don't have internship full-time job experience, so how will that affect my chances? See, when you go for the interviews, they're going to ask you, what were you doing? And you will say, okay, I was preparing for CAT. 8 hours maximum, 8 hours sleeping. What about the remaining 8 hours, right? So that's the question that you need to find an answer to. It can be full-time job, it can be something else, right? So figure it out. Anjana, my scores are 787, BBA grad with 1.1 years of work ex, 1 year gap. I'm struggling to improve my performance considering performance in DLR. Okay. And quants, I don't have enough confidence, motivation to keep myself going. Should I think of leaving work and continue on CAT only? Okay, so you can do that technically. You can quit your job and prepare for the CAT. But I would suggest that you evaluate very critically what your situation is, right? So during the day, how much time you get. If let's say there are some activities that are not adding value, you don't do them, you replace that with CAT preparation, correct? And you have enough time, right? So even if you want to quit your job, you should quit after July, provided you're not getting any time to prepare for the CAT. If you're getting ample time to prepare, continue in your job, plan your leaves, etc. well, so that in November you get more time. But if you feel like quitting, after July would be my recommendation. Okay, and again, I'm not recommending you to quit your job. I'm saying that you wait, you park this decision for some time, you come back to it later. Okay. How can a fresher fare with average scores in college and no work experience? Even internship as my final year exam just got over, no extracurriculars. Okay, so don't overthink, right? You're maybe thinking too much about this problem. So I would suggest that whatever has happened in the past, right? There's nothing, absolutely nothing that can be done about it. So have a forward outlook and figure out what can I do in, let's say, in the remaining 5 months, 6 months that are ahead of me. It could be, as I said, full-time work ex or internship or freelancing or courses. Figure it out. Okay. I'm a long-term batch student who will be taking master classes. So most of the faculty members will be from the online learning team. It could be, say, Amit sir, it could be Parmeshwar, it could be Tony. So it's going to be like a combination of faculty members. Sakshi, I've got 86 in 10, 91 in 12, 65. I'm aiming for IMA. Will my marks affect on it? See, firstly, profile wise, I think it's decent, but then maybe graduation score is a little low. Again, the session today is not about profile evaluation. And see, profile evaluation is a very tricky thing. Somebody might end up saying that, okay, you're not going to get a particular call, but you will get that particular call, right? So that happens a lot because of the aspirant pool of a particular year. I generally don't pay too much attention to what people say about profile evaluation, because you never know how things are going to happen. The only controllable factor is CAT prep. Work on that, and that's about it. Okay, I have very limited time to take all the questions, so I'll just look at some things that maybe we have not discussed enough, and we'll take those. I'll be on a probation period till October, then can I join as an employee? If I join as an employee, will probation be included in the total work X? Prasun, what happens is different companies have different policy regarding it. So I have seen some cases where they show that you are employee from day one. In some cases, they show that it is at the end of the probation period your employment begins. So you look at the actual policies that the organization follows, and you can also talk to somebody who has, let's say, quit the job and what sort of certificate they got. That will give you a sense of whether it will be given as a full-time work X or it will be given after probation period. You can speak to your HR, that should not be a problem. Okay, experience certificate from company, will that be considered as work X? If you have work X certificate, colleges are going to consider it, so don't worry. Till when the work X considered, till like interview or till form filling of CAT is what Ajay is asking. When you fill the CAT form, it is as on end July, so that is what they will look at. But when you go for your interviews, the cutoff dates can be different. In some colleges it is Jan end, in some colleges December end, in some colleges March end. So it depends on the college. Twinkle, I completed my MSc in biotech in 25, planning to take at 25. I don't have work X, one gap year after 12th. Okay, so if you're asking for a recommendation, take up a job, start working in something that is going to be like a long-term plan, in the sense that if I want to move towards marketing, take up a job now in marketing, right? So that's how you should look at it. If not that, some internship can always be done. Okay, can I add probation? Okay, the probation we have kind of discussed enough. I have no work X, I'm preparing for 25. What should I do? Should I start working while preparing? Yes, ideally that is going to be the first preference. Till when is the work X counted? That I also mentioned. I have a proprietorship firm. It is registered and also filed regularly. I have not taken salary from 1.5 years. If I take salary from now onwards, can I show this as experience? Okay, in that case, your GST certificate, the income tax returns that you're filing, that can be taken as proof of employment. So it's not necessary that you should draw salary, but have those documents in place then. Okay, more or less, I think we have covered everything. What we're going to do is we're going to wrap up the session here because we had planned for like 30 minutes of discussion. It has kind of exceeded that a little bit. That's okay. Don't think that I'm not going to answer your questions. What you can do is you can leave your question as a comment. This video, of course, will remain on the channel. You can leave your question as a comment or you can drop in as a comment on any of the other videos as well. And I'll try and get back as soon as possible. Two things I definitely recommend students to check out. One is the video on the channel which is on work experience. I think I had recorded it in the last 60 days sometime. It definitely covers everything in detail in terms of work experience and how IIMs look at it, whether you should have it, you should not have it, etc. And the IMK PGP selection criteria document, which is a very beautifully given document in terms of what documents are required. One important resource is the B School Zone, so make sure that you check out bschoolzone.imsindia.com where you will find more information on the cutoffs and the selection criteria. Okay, so that's it from my side. I hope this has helped you. I think we covered close to about 35-40 questions through the session. So thank you so much for joining. I hope it has helped you and wish all of you all the best. If there's anything that you want to ask, leave it as a comment. Okay, thanks. Bye everyone. Take care.